As we've been covering the deadliness and severity of Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean, we're reminded of another storm from 13 years ago that devastated the same area before hitting the U.S. Hurricane Sandy made landfall near Kingston, Jamaica as a Category 1 storm on October 24, 2012. It then strengthened to a Category 3 hurricane before hitting Cuba the next day and then moving through the Bahamas. The hurricane lost strength as it moved across the Atlantic and was downgraded to a powerful post-tropical cyclone just hours before making landfall near Atlantic City, New Jersey. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Sandy was directly responsible for 147 deaths total across every country it hit, with 72 of those fatalities in the U.S. It caused an estimated $88.5 billion in damages across the U.S., making it the fifth costliest storm to ever hit the country. Shaun Donovan joins us now. He's the CEO of Enterprise Community Partners and former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President Obama. He was also the chair of the administration's Hurricane Sandy Rebuilding Task Force. Thank you for being here. Take us back to 2012 and the months after Hurricane Sandy. How did you approach rebuilding and a recovery project of that magnitude?
Well, first, let me just say I appreciate you having me on, and it's hard to watch those images. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I had friends who lost family members, their businesses, their homes in the storm, and it's emotional to see those images in front of us. And I was honored that President Obama asked me to lead the recovery. I think there are really two things I would focus on that come first in a situation like this. The first thing to remember is that those who are most vulnerable before the storm hits are always hurt the hardest by it. And I'm talking about seniors who have mobility issues and we have to get out of harm's way early on. I'm talking about low-income folks who may not have a car or may not be able to find a relative whose couch they can stay on in a neighboring town. And what we always see is that our shelters fill up in these events with the lowest income and the people who are most vulnerable. So we really need to focus on protecting them in advance, and then also focus on them in the wake of a disaster to make sure we're housing them, and then they're working to get them back on their feet as quickly as possible. So that's one. The second, I would say, is while it is hard for folks in the midst of such devastation to really think far into the future, we have to remember that we shouldn't rebuild our communities as they were. We should rebuild them as they should have been in the first place. And what do I mean by that? We know now that these storms are getting more frequent, they're getting more intense. And so when you rebuild a home, you should build it differently. You should build it out of harm's way. You should put fortified roofs or other measures in place. And at a community level, we saw this, we learned this the hard way in Hurricane Katrina. We need to make sure that the system-wide protections, the community level protections are sound, and we have to build them in different ways. And really, just to be very specific, New York has recovered and the surrounding area very, very well and very quickly relative to other communities. But we're still building new flood measures all over Manhattan and other parts of the city in order to make sure that we're protecting from the next storm. And really, it's in the midst of this crisis that there's an opportunity to think about how to build differently and to avoid the damage the next time around.
And so I'm hearing that little piece of advice for these islands that are now being impacted, be it Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti. Do you fear, I mean, that takes money, right? It takes funds to be able to fortify and to be able to build something back stronger that can withstand Category 5 hits. Do you worry about that?
I absolutely do. And let's be clear, we have a system where across the US, certainly, we generally provide money after a storm. That's in question right now. We still haven't provided funding, for example, to Southern California to recover from the devastating wildfires. So we need to do that. But what we're even less good at as a country is providing money when there isn't a crisis. And what I think we do need to do is get better at having ways of investing in infrastructure, investing in all kinds of measures that are going to better protect us before the storm hits. And let me be very specific. The way that HUD is involved, and I was the HUD secretary at the time of Sandy, we have a program called the Community Development Block Grant Program. FEMA is in charge of the immediate response, right? Protecting people in advance, getting people back on their feet. The CDBG money, which we call disaster recovery money, is really for that long term. But here's the thing, we've never had a permanent CDBG DR program. Every time we have a disaster, Congress needs to rewrite the statute and the program, and that's not a way to run a railroad here. So we do need to do a better job, not just of providing the money, but putting the rules in place, putting the process in place so that we have predictability. Because if you've just been hit by one of these storms, you want to know that you can get your house rebuilt. You want to get back into your community as quickly as possible. And we're not set up to do that right now. But we have a piece of legislation in front of Congress right now that would do that. And we should get that passed.
Shaun Donovan, that's all the time we have for today. But thank you so much for coming on.
Great to be with you.